Hello, I'm Harvey Hammock, Vice President of Safety for IES. I started my career in the electrical contracting industry in 1973, beginning as an electrician's helper. I know what each of you face every day in the performance of your duties. I have witnessed firsthand the tragic results when someone decides to take a shortcut and ignore safety procedures and best practices. The results are devastating to not only those workers, but also to their families. Unfortunately, the effects remain for the injured employee and their families for the rest of their life. In 2000, we suffered over 1,500 injuries to our employees. 492 of these were lost time injuries, which means they were severe enough that the injured employee could not work the next day. That same year, I was transferred from one of the IES operating units to corporate to start and develop our current safety program, and in so, reduce the number of accidents that were recurring. Shortly after arriving, we conducted an extensive research in regards to these accidents and discovered over 60% of these employees injured were new hires, and they were injured within their first 90 days of employment. Today, we have one of the most coveted safety programs in the industry. An injury to an IES employee is a rare event. Very seldom will they serious enough to be classified as lost time. My main purpose at IES is to make sure each and every employee returns home after work each day to their families, to their friends, safe and injury-free. If you have any comments, suggestions, or ideas on how to improve the safety at IES, please feel free to send them to me. Work safe, require your coworkers to work safe, and welcome to our team.
At IES, we are dead serious about safety. In our line of work, we have to be. Electrical shock is one of the leading causes of workplace fatalities in the U.S. due to electrocution or flash burns. On average, a worker a day is killed on the job due to electrical accidents. More than 7,600 electrical accidents occur each year. Nearly half of those accidents are disabling, so it's important that each of us do all we can to avoid electrical accidents in the first place. Here's some key things to remember. During construction, always plug into a power source that is ground fault interrupted or GFI protected. In existing facilities or when temporary power has been removed, you must use a GFI adapter. As a rule of thumb, if you have to use a drop cord, you must use GFI protection. IES has a written lockout-tagout program, but before you perform lockout-tagout procedures, you must receive specific training for this. Our lockout-tagout program consists of a written procedure, a required PPE list, required lockout and tagging devices, and checklists for de-energizing a circuit or re-energizing a circuit. If you encounter a situation that requires de-energizing a circuit and you have not received specific instructions and training in this process, stop what you're doing and contact your supervisor before proceeding any further. Do not perform this procedure until you have received training in the IES Lockout-Tagout program. Electrical hot work is a situation in which an employee can come into contact with an energized electrical circuit, equipment, or apparatus either by accident or on purpose. As a general rule at IES, we do not allow our employees to perform work on energized electrical circuits or equipment. On rare occasions, however, electrical hot work may be necessary. Before performing any electrical hot work, you must receive authorization and be specifically trained in the IES Energized Electrical Hot Work Policy. Then you must follow all procedures in our program, which include the specific training, set procedures, designated protective equipment, and a properly signed and authorized hot work permit. Understand that no employee is allowed to perform any work on energized circuits unless they have been authorized and trained, and then only in full compliance with the IES Energized Electrical Hot Work program. IES has zero tolerance for any employee knowingly working on energized circuits or parts and fail to follow our procedures. To protect yourself and others, this policy and program must be followed. Failure to follow the IES Energized Electrical Hot Work policy will result in termination of employment. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, is a barrier between hazards and your body. In our industry, head injuries happen every day to workers who fail to wear proper head protection. Hard hats can protect you from bumping your head, falling tools or materials striking you from above, objects being carried and swung overhead, and electrical shock and burns. Just as a turtle wouldn't last long without its shell, you won't escape injury without your hard hat. Hard hats are designed and constructed to resist blows and penetrations, while the headbands and straps absorb shock. All IES employees are required to wear an IES-provided hard hat when working on construction projects of any size. Also, it is IES policy that only approved safety-oriented stickers are allowed on your hard hat. Remember, if you take care of your hard hat, it will take care of you. No doubt, your eyes need protection too, which is why all employees on construction projects are required to wear safety glasses at all times. Make sure your eyewear protects against the greatest possible hazard level, such as safety spectacles or goggles with side protection. Inspect your eye protection daily and replace it when the lenses become too pitted or scratched to see through. Use a lens defogging solution to prevent lenses from fogging up. If you have to drill overhead, then goggles or a face shield over safety glasses is required. As an electrician, your hands are vital in getting the job done. Before handling materials and equipment, check for sharp edges, splinters, temperatures, slickness, etc. Keep your hands away from machinery and moving parts. When using a knife, always cut away from your body and use it in a safe manner. Whether you're terminating wire or installing fixtures, proper gloves will protect your hands from hazards on the job. For the job at hand, always select the correct glove. Use rated and tested insulated rubber gloves when working on live or energized circuits. IES uses Dyneema gloves, which are cut-resistant and protect against rough surfaces, chips, and sparks. We also use leather or mechanic gloves for material handling, rough surfaces, or tasks such as pulling wire. Use chemical-resistant rubber gloves when liquid or powder chemicals are present. Understand that as a minimum, IES requires a hard hat, safety glasses, and safety-toed boots to be worn anytime an employee is working on a construction project. Each year, thousands of workers suffer back injuries ranging from minor sprains to permanent disabilities. Lower back pain is the leading cause of chronic pain in people under the age of 40. With proper lifting and bending techniques, most injuries can be prevented. IES safety policy requires daily morning stretch and flex exercises to help avoid these types of injuries. Back pain is the most common cause of work-related disability and the second leading cause of missed work days. Once a back strain occurs, it often returns. Back injuries often require extended bed rest and surgery in some cases. To keep your back healthy, follow these tips. Regular exercise strengthens back muscles and stomach muscles. Always sit and stand straight. Poor posture puts a strain on your back. Be realistic about what you can carry. Know your limits and ask for help. Avoid lifting manually whenever possible. Always test the weight first. If it's too heavy, use a dolly, forklift, hand truck, or ask another person to help you. Plan and prepare before you lift. Stretch and bend to loosen up your muscles. Choose the straightest path and clear any objects out of the way. If necessary, use a back brace. When you lift, use your legs, not your back. While carrying and unloading, avoid injury by carrying waist high, close to your body. Keep a good grip and make sure you can see where you're going. To change direction, move your feet. Never twist your back. Lower your load slowly with hips bent and stand up slowly. Only you can prevent yourself from becoming another back statistic. Did you know that falls are the leading cause of fatalities in the construction industry? Yes, it's true. Each year between 150 and 200 workers die, and more than 100,000 are injured due to falls. Falls are easily preventable. IES policy states that fall protection is required anytime an employee is 6 feet or more above a lower level, any unprotected sides and edges, hoist areas such as elevator shafts, overhead walkways and ramps, rooftop excavations, holes greater than 2 inches, and wall openings. All IES employees who are exposed to fall hazards must be trained to recognize the hazard and to protect themselves. Usually your supervisor or foreman determines the type of fall protection to be used, such as guardrails, safety nets, covers, and personal fall arrest systems, which consist of an anchorage point, connectors, and full body harness. One thing important to remember, your anchor point must be able to support 5,000 pounds. Passive fall arrest systems are the preferred method of protection, such as guardrails. Active fall arrest systems like harness and lanyards should be used only as a last resort. One of the most frequently used pieces of equipment on the job is a ladder. When used properly, ladders are one of your safest tools. When used improperly, ladders can become one of the greatest hazards, often resulting in broken legs, arms, shoulders, or even concussions. The first step in ladder safety is to make sure you have the correct ladder for the job, and that's in good condition and suitable for field use. Inspect it daily for cracks or missing parts. When setting up your ladder, make sure it's in the proper position. Step ladders should be erected on a level surface with both spreader bars locked down. Never perform work while standing on the top 2 steps of the ladder. Take time to read the instructions and warnings the manufacturer has placed on the ladder you are using. Extension ladders should be erected at a 4-to-1 ratio against the adjacent surface with both locks tightly secured. The top of the ladder must extend 3 feet or 3 rungs above the surface you are trying to reach. When ascending or descending a ladder, always follow the 3-point rule, which requires that 3 of your 4 limbs must make contact with the ladder at all times. Remember, fiberglass and wood are the only types of ladders to be used while performing electrical work. Another danger overlooked in the workplace, exposure to asbestos and lead. A naturally occurring mineral, asbestos was first recognized as a hazard in the 1970s. Its durability and resistance to heat made its use attractive in the manufacture of a variety of materials such as floor tile, insulation, ceiling tile, and brake pads. Exposure to asbestos can lead to 2 types of lung cancer. Asbestosis is a chronic inflammatory and fibrotic medical condition that affects the lungs, and mesothelioma, which is a rare form of cancer that develops from the protective lining that covers many of the body's internal organs. Asbestos is most dangerous when particles are disturbed and become airborne. First, you should know that IES does not perform work in areas where asbestos is directly located in such a manner that such disturbance of the asbestos would take place. A site survey must be provided by the facility owner that gives the exact location of the asbestos. The risk of exposure to asbestos can be minimized or eliminated altogether by following proper procedures for identifying and working in the vicinity of asbestos. All asbestos located in the surrounding work area must be properly enclosed or sealed to prevent release. If you encounter a suspicious material, halt work operations and consult your supervisor. Although asbestos exposure is minimal, never take unnecessary risks. Another element to avoid is lead. The dangers in working with lead were discovered more than 100 years ago. Despite this knowledge, lead was commonly used for electrical raceways between walls and floor levels up until the 1980s. Lead exposure in adults can lead to damage to the nervous system, high blood pressure, damage to the kidneys, and reproductive problems. IES policy states that we do not work in areas where lead exposure is possible. If you encounter a suspicious material, halt work operations and consult your supervisor. Sometimes you may be required to work in a confined space such as boilers, furnaces, pipelines, pits, process vessels, silos and storage tanks, sewer and manholes, excavations, and trenches. Before working in a confined space, you must receive specific training to help you be aware of the hazards associated with confined spaces and preventative measures to implement to ensure your safety. Some of the hazards include atmospheric hazards, which may be toxic gases that could be flammable or corrosive. It may be low or high oxygen levels, which may result in asphyxiation hazard. The physical configuration could be wet or slippery, uneven bottoms, narrow or poorly lit areas. Mechanical dangers such as paddles, blades, shafts, chain, or belt drives may exist. Electrical hazards could include broken lighting, sensing devices, limit switches, level devices, and the equipment you are using. Thermal dangers include burns, frostbite, and heat stress. Noise levels from mechanical equipment being used could pose hazards too. Engulfment or entrapment could occur due to liquids, granular products, flooding, or cave-ins. Due to the nature of some confined spaces, a permit may be required before work can take place. You need to be aware of the potential hazards of confined spaces and know how to control them. This includes conducting air quality tests to find acceptable entry conditions and wearing appropriate personal protective gear. You must also be aware of basic procedures for confined space entry. A rescue team must be readily available for all permit-required confined spaces. All persons involved in confined space work must be specifically trained and qualified. And finally, never rush into the confined spaces when a rescue appears necessary. Wait for the rescue team, or you could become a victim yourself. In fact, 60% of would-be rescuers become victims themselves.
The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, requires employers to have a written hazard communication program, which is often referred to as a HAZCOM program. This program is designed to inform and assist employees on how to identify potential hazards, allowing everyone to work safely with the chemicals that are used in the workplace. This training will familiarize you with OSHA requirements and the IES HAZCOM program. You will receive additional training on this subject during your orientation training and in the future on your job sites. Has a chemical ever caused you to feel sick or experience a burning sensation in your eyes from the vapors? Have you ever come into contact with a chemical and experienced a slight burn to your skin? The same principle applies in the workplace, which is why we are providing this training. On job sites, you will be working with and around chemicals while performing your job duties. It's important that you know which chemicals you are working with, how to protect yourself, and what to do if you are exposed. It's IES policy to recognize and identify all materials and chemicals provided or found in the workplace which could pose a potential hazard to our employees or to employees of others. Plus, have available all information about the substances and chemicals for safe use and handling. The full HAZCOM program will be available in our main office for review by all employees. A copy of the HAZCOM written program, which is in the IES Safety Manual and Safety Data Sheets, often referred to as SDS, will be available for all employees to review upon request. OSHA created the Hazard Communication Standard to help ensure your safety when working with hazardous chemicals, giving workers the right to understand. OSHA has modified the Hazard Communication Standard, or HCS, to adopt the Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals, or GHS, to improve safety and health of workers through more effective communications on chemical hazards. This update to the Hazard Communication Standard, or HCS, will provide a common and coherent approach to classifying chemicals and communicating hazard information on labels and safety data sheets, giving employees the right to understand about the hazardous chemicals you use on the job and how to work safely with those chemicals. OSHA has created the Hazard Communication Standard to help ensure your safety when working with chemicals. Some important parts of the Hazard Communications Training program that you need to remember include how to read an SDS or a safety data sheet. We are required by OSHA to have an SDS readily available for each chemical we have in the workplace. Label and marking system. The IES Written HazCom Plan, which is located in the IES Safety Manual. A copy is required or be easily accessible on every job site. Proper storage of chemicals. Exposure controls, including required PPE. And proper spill cleanup. This video is a brief overview, and additional training will be given to you during your employment at IES. HazCom training is required for all new employees during their new employee orientation before reporting to a job site or construction project. Once you arrive at a job site or project, someone will conduct a job site orientation and show you how to access the IES Safety Manual, which includes the written IES HazCom program and the location of the SDS forms. A list of the chemicals on site should also be reviewed. If you have any questions, ask them. Remember, you have the right to request and review the written HazCom program and the SDS forms at any time. An important fact to remember when working with or around chemicals: there are only 4 ways that chemicals can affect you. Number 1, inhalation. Number 2, ingestion. Number 3, injection. And number 4, absorption. Every chemical on site is required to have an SDS or safety data sheet. All SDSs are now in the same format, containing 16 sections. This uniformity will help you be able to read and identify key information that is important to you. No matter what the chemical or the manufacturer, each SDS will be formatted the same. For example, Section 4 is always first aid measures. Section 5 is always firefighting measures. Section 8 is always PPE requirements, and so forth. The 16 sections of an SDS are as follows. Section 1, Chemical Product and Chemical Identification, which lists the product trade name, manufacturer's name, address, and phone number. Section 2, Hazard Identification, which typically matches the primary concerns as listed on the product label, such as immediate dangers, symptoms of exposure, and so forth. Section 3, Composition and Information on Ingredients, which lists each and every ingredient and the approximate total weight of each in proportion to the overall product. Section 4, First Aid Measures, which identifies immediate first aid measures for the most common route of entry and exposure for this product. Section 5, Firefighting Methods, which identify the best means for extinguishing fire, special firefighting instructions, and so forth. Section 6, Accidental Release Information, which identifies specific safety concerns in the event of mass release, cleanup procedures, and so forth. Section 7, Handling and Storage, which provides specific safe storage instructions such as temperature levels, how to safely handle the product, how to store the material, and so forth. Section 8, Exposure Controls and Personal Protection, which identifies the proper PPE that needs to be worn while working with or around this chemical to protect you from exposure, the permissible exposure levels, and the threshold limit values, and so forth. Section 9, Physical and Chemical Properties, which identifies the flash point, boiling point, water solubility levels, and so forth. Section 10, Stability and Reactivity, which explains specific stability and reactive precautions to consider when using the product. Section 11, Toxicology Information. Specific toxicological considerations, such as if the product is a carcinogen, an aspiration hazard, or any other potential toxicology hazard. Section 12, Environmental Information, which explains any specific hazard this product produces to the environment. Section 13, Disposal Considerations, which provides specific considerations for proper disposal. Is it toxic? Is it an ignitable hazardous waste product? And so forth. Section 14, Transportation Considerations, which identifies any DOT-specific information to allow the safe, proper transportation of this product. Section 15, Regulatory Information, which identifies any federal, state, or international regulatory considerations such as EPA notifications and so forth. Section 16, Other Information, which typically contains other important information not covered by the other sections, such as the HMIS or NFPA label numbers. Another important part of the Hazard Communications program is the labeling and marking requirements. There are 6 basic requirements that must be displayed on the labels. Manufacturer information, which lists the name, address, and phone number of the manufacturer or importer. Hazard statement, which describes the nature of the hazards of the chemical, including where appropriate the degree of hazard. Signal word, used to indicate the level of severity of any hazard and alert the reader to a potential hazard on the label. Product identifier, which is the way a hazardous chemical is identified. Precautionary statements, which describes recommended measures that should be taken to minimize or prevent adverse effects resulting from exposure to a hazard chemical or improper handling or storage. Pictogram, which must be in the shape of a square set at a point and include a black hazard symbol on a white background with a red frame sufficiently wide enough to be clearly visible. OSHA has revised the hazard communication standards to include the global harmonization systems which is used by the United Nations. A major part of the revision is the inclusion of pictograms, which are required on labels of all products containing chemicals in order to identify potential hazards. There are a total of 9 pictograms, of which 8 of them are mandatory and 1 is optional. Now we will discuss these pictograms so you will be familiar with them. The flame pictogram warns the chemicals in this product have the potential hazards to be flammable, pyrophoric, self-heating, ability to emit flammable gas, self-reactive, or organic peroxides. An example where you will find the flame pictogram is on products such as PVC glue, diesel, or gasoline. Corrosion pictogram warns the chemicals in this product can cause skin corrosion, burns, eye damage, and corrosive to metals. An example where you will find the corrosion pictogram is on products such as batteries and caustic acids. Health hazard pictogram warns the chemicals in this product can be hazardous to your health by being a carcinogen, mutagenicity, reproductive toxicity, respirator sensitizer, target organ toxicity, and aspiration toxicity. An example where you will find the health hazard pictogram is on products such as asbestos or benzene. Skull and crossbones pictogram warns the chemicals in this product could cause acute toxicity and possibly be fatal or toxic. An example where you will find the skull and crossbones pictogram is on products such as PCB or nitrogen. Gas cylinder pictogram warns the chemicals in this product are gases under pressure. An example where you will find the gas cylinder pictogram is on products such as argon, oxygen, or propane. Exploding bomb pictogram warns the chemicals in this product have the potential to be explosive, self-reactive, or organic peroxides. An example where you'll find the exploding bomb pictogram is on products such as dynamite or nitroglycerin. Flame over circle pictogram warns the chemicals in this product are oxidizers. An example where you'll find the flame over circle pictogram is on products such as magnesium or hydrogen peroxide. Exclamation mark pictogram warns the chemicals in this product have the potential to cause irritation to the skin or eyes, to be a skin sensitizer, could cause acute toxicity, could have a narcotic effect, or be a respiratory tract irritant. An example where you'll find the exclamation mark pictogram is on products such as pesticides. The environment pictogram is the only pictogram which is optional and non-mandatory. It has a picture of a dead tree and fish and warns the chemicals in this product have the potential to cause aquatic toxicity and be very harmful or detrimental to the environment. You should never have any unattended, unlabeled containers in the workplace. If you transfer a chemical into a secondary container, the same labeling requirements apply to the secondary container unless you will be using the product and it is disposed of or returned to the original container at the end of your work shift. If the original label becomes illegible or removed, you must ensure the contents are properly labeled or the product is removed from the workplace. There are two secondary labels available. NFPA diamonds issued by the National Fire Protection Agency and the HMIS, or the Hazardous Material Information System, labels issued by the American Coating Association. The NFPA diamond label has a color system as well as a number system to warn of hazards associated with the chemicals and products. Blue diamond represents health hazards. Red diamond represents flammability hazards. Yellow diamond represents reactivity hazards. White diamond represents special hazard information. For the numbering system, the higher the number, the more extreme hazard is present. The scale starts at 0, which indicates no hazard present, and goes up to 4, which indicates extreme hazard. Remember, the higher the number, the higher the hazard. The HMIS labeling system also has a color warning system as well as a numbering system similar to the NFPA system. Blue section represents the health hazards. Red section represents flammability hazards. Orange section represents physical hazards. White indicates what personal protection is required when using this product. The number scale for rating the hazards are the same as the NFPA. It starts at 0, which indicates no hazard, and goes up to 4, which means extreme hazards are present. As we wrap up this training topic, I would like to leave you with a few things to remember. Always read the container label before you use a product. Always obtain and read the SDS to identify chemicals present, safe working requirements, required PPE, and first aid measures in the event of exposure, and for additional information. Always follow the warnings and instructions on the label, SDS, and ask your supervisor if in doubt about any issues. Always use the correct PPE. Always practice sensible, safe work habits. And remember, you have a right to understand the chemicals you use in the workplace.
Safety is important when operating vehicles. In fact, vehicle accidents are the second leading cause of death on the work site. Here are some things to keep in mind. The first rule is never operate a vehicle under the influence of alcohol or drugs. To be safe, vehicles must be kept in proper condition. As the vehicle driver-operator, it's your responsibility to inspect your vehicle. When operating your vehicle, observe these rules. Equip all materials that hang over the sides or extend beyond the tailgate with red flags. Before starting out, check to make sure that tailgates are closed and materials are properly secured. Tie wire is not an acceptable means of securing material in a truck. The maximum number of passengers allowed in a vehicle is the same as the number of seats equipped with safety belts. It is IES policy that all occupants must wear safety belts in company vehicles. Failure to do so could result in your loss of the privilege to operate a company vehicle. Remember, when you're on the road, drive defensively. The right-of-way is something to be given, not taken. And stay alert out there. Be aware of other drivers. Report any problems with a company vehicle to your supervisor immediately. Treat your vehicle with care and respect. Any abuse of company vehicles could result in your termination. No matter how much we work at preventing accidents, sometimes they do occur. If one of our employees sustains an injury, we want to help obtain the best medical attention available as quickly as possible. If you're injured, you must report it to your project foreman immediately. Do not wait. Every job site is required to have a first aid kit. It can usually be found in the job office, the gang box, or in the supervisor's truck. When you arrive on the job, ask the supervisor where the first aid kit is located. Kits are required to be checked frequently for adequate supplies. Always respond quickly and correctly to any injury. On projects where emergency medical service is not available within 3 to 4 minutes, there will be at least one employee who is certified in first aid and CPR. You should know who this person is so you can contact them if an emergency situation arises. Here's a few first aid tips to follow. If you come in contact with chemicals, wash your hands for 15 minutes. For large cuts, apply direct pressure and raise your hand over your shoulder. Never apply a tourniquet. For small cuts, wash thoroughly with soap and water and cover with a sterile bandage. For small burns, soak in cold water and cover with a sterile bandage. For large blistered or charred burns, seek immediate medical attention. For broken bones, keep the broken limb still as possible and seek medical attention. In the event of amputation, put the amputated portion on ice and apply pressure to the wounded area and seek medical attention immediately. Job site accidents can lead to exposure to bloodborne pathogens. Bloodborne pathogens are microorganisms found in blood, body fluids, and organ tissue. These microorganisms can contain diseases such as hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV, which can lead to AIDS. IES uses universal precaution, which means we treat all bodily fluids as if contaminated. Remember to always protect yourself when providing first aid or assistance following any injury. If you think you have been exposed to bodily fluids, please notify your supervisor. Assistance can be provided, including medical precautions. Due to the possible dangers, you must be specifically trained to clean up bloodborne pathogens. If you find blood or other bodily fluids on the job site, do not clean these up. Notify your supervisor so that it can be safely cleaned up and properly discarded by a trained individual. Obviously, there are many aspects of a job site injury and they can compound very quickly. That's why it's very important that you report all accidents to your supervisor immediately, whether it happens to you or someone else. This is required for compliance with state workers' compensation laws and the company's insurance policy. Failure to report an accident immediately could result in disciplinary action. If an accident is sustained, you will be required to take a drug screen test when you receive your medical treatment. After receiving treatment, return to your project and give the project foreman any paperwork the physician gives you so it can be forwarded to the region safety manager. IES safety policy allows us to accommodate you with a temporary light duty assignment. Remember, we believe that 0 accidents are possible and that no one should be required to sacrifice their health or safety for the purpose of making a profit. To provide you with a chance to submit questions, Toolbox safety meetings are held weekly on every job site. Topics for the week will include subjects pertinent to your job. In the meeting, a safety topic is discussed. You're encouraged to participate in this discussion and to raise additional safety concerns. Before leaving the meeting, all individuals are required to sign the meeting attendance form. During your daily task huddle, safety issues that may arise on the job site that day should be included to ensure you're aware of the dangers on the job site so that you can safely complete your tasks for the day. If you have questions or concerns, these huddles are the best place to have them addressed. In this video, we have summarized some of the most common safety issues that you may encounter on the job, but it's only the beginning of your safety training. Safety training is for your benefit. Participate, provide feedback and experiences that your fellow employees can benefit from. If you're unsure or don't understand a safety procedure, don't hesitate to ask questions. At IES, we want each and every employee to return safely home from work each day, to live healthy lives and enjoy your families and the fruits of your labor. You deserve it. Remember, you are responsible for your safety as well as those employees that work with you each day. Our goal is 0 accidents. With your help, we can achieve it. Welcome to the IES team.